Welcome to a NetShow preview of Internet Explorer 4.0. I'm excited to show you how IE brings the vision of information at your fingertips a few steps closer to your desktop. The vision behind Internet Explorer 4.0 really is the best of the web meets the best of the PC. And its features are broken down into four main categories. First of all, there's the idea of the best browser. Not only have we made a number of improvements in making browsing easier, faster, more fun, but we're also introducing a new platform for developers to author rich, interactive applications on their web pages while still keeping bandwidth low. Complete collaboration and communication. We know that people use the Internet for much more than just browsing the web. So whatever communications needs you might have, from email to video and applications to even web authoring, the new Internet Explorer 4.0 suite has a solution for you. Personal information delivery. If you're tired of browsing the web from site to site, looking for new information, Internet Explorer 4.0 can do the work for you by delivering personalized, customized information directly down to your desktop. And you can work with that information even if you're offline, far from an Internet connection. And finally, true web integration. IE 4.0 enables your PC to have a true web integration. It will let you browse your hard drive or your LAN the exact same way you browse the web. Even the familiar Start button, taskbar, and desktop have been updated and are web savvy. First of all, let's see how Internet Explorer 4.0 is simply a better browser. We know that users tend to visit the same sites all the time over and over again. But through our usability studies, we find that they don't always save them in their favorites list or their bookmarks list. They tend to type in the same addresses over and over. Autocomplete, a new feature in IE4, enables users to go back to sites that they've already seen, and it looks it up in their history automatically. I can type the URL, let's say www.pcweek, and it knows that I've already visited that site, so it fills it in directly from my history list, and I can navigate there quickly. I can even right-click on the address bar and choose this new command that says completions, and it shows me all the pages that have the same beginning, pcweek.com, so I can navigate to any of those sites very quickly and easily. Once I get to the PC Week site, I can certainly browse however I'd like. I can look at a story about IBM. And then we find that users like to backtrack over the places they've been quite often. But people are hitting the back button over and over again. So instead of doing that, we've enabled a new backward and forward history feature that lets me simply right-click over my backwards or forwards buttons. And again, it gives me a list of my most recent path. So I can quickly get, say, 7 pages behind or 2 pages behind, as opposed to hitting the back or forwards button over and over again. It's very easy to customize your version of Internet Explorer 4.0. We've always had this idea of quick links that you can keep on your toolbar, the places you like to go most often, but it wasn't very easy to figure out how to customize those buttons to the places that you're most interested in. So what we've done is enabled drag and drop. I can click on a link that I'm interested in and then just drag it up to my quick links bar. Notice how it highlights. It asks me, would I like to set this quick link to Internet Mail and News? I'll say yes. And now that link is updated. So it's certainly very easy to customize your browser the way you'd like to. The next thing we find is that it's very frustrating to search for information on the web. Not only do you get multiple hits when you search for something like, say, Bruce Springsteen or whatever you're interested in, but once you start browsing that site, it's difficult to get back to the search page. So what we've done is implemented what we call the search bar. When I click the search button on my toolbar, notice how it splits my browser in half. I have my main browser window on the right side and then my search bar on the left. So I could search for anything I'm interested in, let's say privatization, and I click the search button, and notice how my search results set shows up inside this same window on the left, so that when I click on one of these, it replaces it in my main browser window, and I can browse as much as I'd like, but if I find out that that's not the site I'm interested in, I can always go back to my search bar to go to another site. Notice also that when I hold my mouse over one of the search results, it gives me a summary of what's on that site. So I can quickly go from each search result very easily. The search button is a toggle on or off, so I can turn that off and browse with full screen. And then I can turn the search bar back on, and it remembers the state of my search, so I can very easily go back to what I'm interested in. We've made a number of improvements in our favorites list. This is where people keep the sites that they visit all the time. In Internet Explorer 3.0, we kept our favorites list alphabetical. People like to customize their list however they'd like, so we let you do that simply by dragging and dropping directly inside the menu. So I can click on that Arcadia Bay link and really put it wherever I'd like. I can even have it nested inside one of my folders, perhaps, if I'm interested in doing that. So it's very easy to customize. We've also created the idea of what we call smart favorites. It's difficult to go to a website and know when something has changed. So what I can do is simply move my mouse over some of my favorites, and we'll give you a tooltip telling you the last time you visited it and the last time that it's changed. So it's very easy for you to know that there might be some new information on that website. In fact, for authors, we enable you to fill in the meta author tag, the meta description tag, and those will all show up inside the tooltip, so users can figure out whether it's worth visiting your site. If you have something new coming out, you can bring that information directly into the favorites list with the tooltips. And finally, we've done something a bit original in that you can look at what your favorites look like kind of from a bird's eye view. I'm going to open up the Organize Favorites button and go into one of my folders. When I right-click, I have the familiar View menu, and we have large icons, small, list, and details, but we have a new view called Thumbnails. And thumbnails, again, give me kind of a bird's eye view of what that page may look like. Right now it's going out to the web and bringing that information down, so I have kind of a snapshot of what that Volcano Coffee Company page might look like. There's www.superbowl.com, and that last page is coming in from KISW Online. So again, it's very easy for me to decide whether I want to go out and visit those sites. Now, one problem with the Internet is that it contains crucially important information for us, but it isn't very portable. How do I work with information on the Internet or on my intranet if I'm on an airplane? With Internet Explorer 4.0, users can view the web anywhere at any time. Notice the Work Offline feature that I can turn on, and it lets me view previously visited pages without having to be connected to the Internet. I'm going to turn on the Work Offline feature, and notice as I move my mouse around the page, some of them have a new pointer. It has the finger with a circle and a line through it telling me that I don't have that information in my cache. However, other information won't have that line over it if it's been loaded into my cache. And later in the demo, we'll show you how to download lots of information so you can work with websites completely offline. Now, one of the drawbacks in authoring great-looking web pages is that the process is so complicated and the size of the images and content used are so large that loading pages and retrieving data often takes a very long time. However, Internet Explorer 4.0 gives authors the ability to display the widest set of content available to view and create visually appealing web pages using a new technology called dynamic HTML, but without sacrificing speed and efficiency. Let me show you a few examples of dynamic HTML. The first page I want to take you to is the Arcadia Bay intranet page. The first thing I want you to notice is the A flying across the bottom of the screen. Today, this could only be accomplished with something like an animated GIF, which certainly is a large file and takes a while to download. However, with dynamic HTML, it enables authors to control any object on a page, including something as simple as a text A, and tell it to act in a certain way, just as we've done with this A as we told it to fly across the bottom of the screen. There are a few other things I'd like you to see on this page that are using some of the new dynamic HTML technologies. First of all, we have the text very closely wrapping around the images. Notice both on the woman at the bottom and on the logo, the text is layered basically over some blank portions of the graphics, making it, again, very easy to create nice-looking pages. Also, this image at the top is actually two images in one. I have my stock Arcadia Bay image, which I use over and over again on my website, and I have another image of, say, several people. Now, instead of having to go into a third-party tool and create one large graphic, I can just layer the images that I already have on top of each other, because with dynamic HTML, I have complete control over both its positioning and its layering. Let me show another example of how authors might want to create pages for dynamic HTML. Here at Microsoft, we move offices all the time, and what we have to do is fill out these forms to tell the moving people how we want our new offices set up. So using dynamic HTML, I can create a web page that has a number of graphics on the page. These are simple JPEGs or GIFs, but they've all been given IDs and can be referenced just like in Visual Basic, so that I can capture, say, a mouse click and drag and drop it wherever I'd like onto my web page. So I can move my table over here, I can move my computer to this table. So now I'm actually authoring my page to give the users control of the X, Y coordinates. I even have a fine degree of control of layering. Notice how this table kind of slides underneath the chair, but on top of other graphics. So again, authors have a high degree of control of how they'd like to create their pages. I'm going to go back to that Arcadia Bay page and look at some more examples of dynamic HTML. This page enables me to order some shirts from the Arcadia Bay Spring 1997 line. The first thing I'm going to show you is an example of what we call dynamic styles. Notice as I move my mouse over the titles, say accessories or shoes, that it's italicizing automatically. Again, because you can reference anything on a page, give it an ID, and tell it to do something whenever you'd like, you can have them fly around the screen. You can make them bold, italic, make them red, whatever you'd like to do without animated GIFs. It's all just using HTML and scripting. Also notice how I'm going to click on the dress shirts and instantly the data is displayed for me. I don't have to make that round trip to the server anymore using dynamic HTML. I can choose to display or hide whatever text I'm interested in, and IE4 enables the appropriate text to be displayed when you click on it. Again, this saves the server load because you don't have to hit the server every time, and users get a much more seamless experience when looking at your website or using your application because they're not waiting over and over again every time they click on something. Let's say I'd like to order this pocket polo shirt. A form is going to, again, be revealed immediately on the right side of the screen. I don't have to talk to the server if I author my page that way. Let's look at the spec sheet of that shirt. Notice how the shirt is going to fade in. This is using one of our multimedia controls that's built into IE4. So I don't have to do something special, say, with a new animated GIF or any special ActiveX controls or Java applets. I can take the existing picture of the shirt that I might have in my image gallery and just tell it to fade in, much like you see in Microsoft PowerPoint, how pieces of text or images can fade in or box out, box in. So you can, again, make some very nice special effects on your web pages without doing a whole lot of extra work. Notice how there's text blinking on top of the shirt. Again, this is simply using dynamic HTML. It's not an animated GIF, which really how you would have to do that today. It captures my mouse over event, so when I move my mouse over, it brings more text onto the screen. And now I can click on it to see that this product is on back order and give me a little more information. Now the last piece I'm going to show you with dynamic HTML is the idea of data-bound controls. Now we look at lists of data all the time. Really, we do it on the internet much more now. However, we're used to doing it in applications, say, like Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Access, where I have the ability to work with that data, to sort it, to filter it really very quickly. However, on the internet, again, you've seen this before. If I wanted to ask a question of this data, say, just show me the clothing information, I would have to talk to the web server, which talks to the database server, which goes back to the web server, recreates the page, refreshes your page on the client, and it certainly takes a long time. But with data-bound controls and dynamic HTML, I can build those queries directly into my page so that, again, the user can get the information they need very quickly without having to make that round trip to the server. So if I just want to see the accessory information or I just want to see the clothes information, I get that instantly. Again, a much more seamless, faster, more pleasing experience for end users. So, with features such as autocomplete or the search bar making it much easier to work with information on the internet, as well as for authors to create much more appealing, fast pages with dynamic HTML, I hope you've seen some of the examples how IE4 is the best browser available. So now that you've viewed all the great content that IE can offer you both as a user and an author, I want to show you how Internet Explorer 4.0 gives you the power to easily share it with others with complete communication and collaboration. IE4 is fully integrated to serve your email and newsgroup needs at once and also bring you audio and video teleconferencing and broadcasting as well as authoring capabilities. Let's say you find a web page that you'd like a friend or a coworker to see. This page happens to have some dynamic HTML on it. Notice how the page has a number of links on it, but instead of taking me to a new page whenever I click on something, it simply reveals the drill down text underneath it. So it redraws the HTML dynamically on this page. If I want to send this to someone, I can go up to the Mail menu, and we've always had these first three commands, read mail, news message, or send a link, but now I can send this current document to anyone I'd like. This will actually launch the new mail client for Internet Explorer 4.0 called Microsoft Outlook Express. You'll notice that here's my mail message, but the content of the mail message is the web page. It's not a link to the web page, it's not a shortcut to the web page, but it's actually the live HTML, so that when someone receives this on the other end, they'll simply be going through their mail messages and they'll be able to see this web page in its native state. Let's say I want to mail this to someone, but I'm not sure what their email address is. I can click on the To button. And I've got my address book here, but again, I really don't know where they are, what their email address might be. So I can just click the Find button, and it's tightly integrated with LDAP support. So I can search any of these LDAP services from 411 to InfoSpace, Bigfoot, or Who Where to find really anybody's name and email on the Internet. I'm going to close down this message and show you what Microsoft Outlook Express might look like on the other end. Notice, first of all, how we have a three-pane view in Outlook Express, so you can get a preview of your mail messages. You can certainly turn this off if you would like. Also notice the rich HTML inside the mail message. Again, this is a mail from MSNBC, and it's simply native HTML. It uses support for MIME HTML to package up all the pictures and ActiveX controls and Java applets so that you'll be able to see them and work with them even if you're offline. In fact, we're even an Inbox Direct client now, so if you subscribe to Inbox Direct, you can get HTML email from Hotwired or CNET, for example, all sending native HTML directly to your email. On the left side of the screen, notice how we have hierarchical folders that you can nest as however you'd like, and you can manage your mail any way you'd like to. Also notice that we have news support integrated into the same application, so you don't have to launch a separate application to go from email to news. We have a number of high-end features inside Microsoft Outlook Express, including what we call the Inbox Assistant to help you manage your mail, so that I can set up rules depending on some of the properties of that mail message. So I can say if a message comes from a certain person, move it to a specific folder, or forward it to a specific person, or even delete it immediately depending on the person. If you'd like to create a message, we have support for creating HTML mail natively inside the product. So we've created basically what we call stationery. It's almost like a signature file in email, but because it's just HTML, the signature is actually a whole web page. So I can say something like, you'll get the catalog on Monday. And again, because it's just HTML, I can highlight it or change the size if I wanted to. I could change the color to red, and even click the link button, which lets me hyperlink that word Monday to any site I'd like. And now it's a hyperlink. So let's say I'm not done working on this message and I want to save it for later. When I close down the message, it asks me if I'd like to save changes, and I can say yes. And Outlook Express automatically saves it in my new draft folder. It keeps all my unfinished messages in here, so it's very easy for me to find any messages that I haven't finished working on yet. So that's a quick look at Microsoft Outlook Express. The next thing I want to show you is Microsoft NetShow, which enables you to see video, both streaming, on-demand video, and live video across the Internet. I'm going to go to the Arcadia Bay home page, and it's going to take me to a video which displays a welcome message from their president.
Hi, welcome back to Arcadia Bay's online shopping site. Since your last visit, we brought out our new catalog. We've added some wonderful new items to go along with your old favorites. Everything has our famous no questions guarantee. We hope you enjoy shopping with us.
So that's just an example of how you might want to use NetShow to welcome users to your site. Now that I've seen that, I want to clean up some of my web pages on the Arcadia Bay site. So we've got a page that is pretty simple right now. So I'm going to click the Edit button on Microsoft Internet Explorer, and it's going to launch Microsoft FrontPad, a new addition to the IE4 suite. You can think of FrontPad as front page 97 without the web management tool. So all the terrific HTML editing capabilities that you'll find in FrontPage today, you'll find in FrontPad. So as an example, you can see support for tables. You'll see support for inserting their WebBot components or ActiveX controls. You'll even be able to graphically import Java applets or scripting. If I right-click on the background, you can see I can choose Page Properties. And let's change the background image to make it look a little more interesting than just this gray background. We can just navigate to the right place. There's our background. And I can say OK, and I have a much nicer looking page. If I was to close this down and save it, it could actually use two other pieces of the IE4 suite, both the Web Publishing Wizard and the Personal Web Server, which help me display and publish my information directly to the Internet. Now, how about sharing these tasks and ideas with your friends or coworkers across the Internet or intranet? If we look at the bottom of my page, you can see an icon for Microsoft Net Meeting, which gives you the ability to have a real conference over the Internet with audio, video, and true application sharing. You can use it for training, virtual meetings, telecommuting, distance learning, even remote technical support. The scenarios truly are endless. So you can see that the IE4 suite provides the best communication and collaboration solution. Today, finding information on the web is not only difficult, but it's overwhelming. The wealth of information on the web has raised the need for tools to push and pull information directly to the desktop. Internet Explorer 4.0 accomplishes this with personal information delivery. First of all, with IE, you can literally subscribe to any website in the world. So let's go to actually my home page, which is the Microsoft IE page. Now let's say I'm really interested in this content and I want to know when information on this page changes. So I can just go to my Favorites button and say Add to Favorites. And when I do that, I can click the Subscribe for Downloading button so I can subscribe to this site. If I click the Properties button, we can see a little bit better what this means. I can click on the Schedule button so that I can tell IE when I want it to automatically go out, daily, weekly, or a custom schedule, and look to see if any content on that web page has changed. If it has, I can tell it what I'd like it to deliver to me. I can tell it to just download this page. I can deliver, say, this page and one level deep. All the hyperlinks on that page will also be downloaded. There are a number of ways to set limits on these as well to save you some disk space. So I can say just download 500K, download images or not, download sounds and videos or not. You'll be able in the future to choose not to download ActiveX controls and Java applets to save you some disk space as well. Finally, how do you know that that page has some new information? Well, earlier in the demo, we showed you Smart Favorites, where you can just move your mouse over the Favorites menu, and a tooltip will show up telling you that there's some new information. But there's actually some other ways that you can get that. You can be notified by an icon on the taskbar. And if we look at the bottom right of my screen, there's a small icon that looks like a web page, and I can right-click that and get my subscription information. Actually, once I subscribe to a number of sites, any site that has new information will be listed right in this menu, so I can quickly get to the sites that have new info for me. I can also, going back to the menu, send myself an email through Microsoft Outlook Express. So say there's new information on this IE page, it'll actually send me an email message, but again, it won't be a link to that page or a shortcut to that page. It will actually be the content of that page. So I can very easily be going through my mail messages, yet I can receive web pages at the same time with the information that I'm interested in. So that's one piece of personal information delivery. The next piece of personal information delivery is the idea of channels, so that I can subscribe to a number of channels from premier content providers that can push information directly down to my desktop. Let me show you an example of what the channel user interface might look like. This is not included in the Technical Platform Preview release, which you can download right now, but we wanted to show you this demo as an example. Here we're looking at the channel for what the MSNBC channel might look like. Notice you have sound in the background, and it's using dynamic HTML to move from page to page, showing me the different headlines. Notice also that it's a pretty completely immersive environment, so that there's no taskbar, there's no address bar, so the sites creating the channels, the content providers, are pretty responsible for creating the navigation on their page. MSNBC can do some interesting things here. We can click the On-Air Highlights button, and we'll actually be able to tap in to see what's going on live on MSNBC right now using Microsoft NetShow.
I'd really like to download software off the net, but I'm afraid of downloading viruses with it. How should I go about it without infecting my computer?
So they're talking about downloading viruses off the internet, a certainly common topic across people who are browsing the web. Let's look at the MSN channel, another example of what a channel might look like. And again, they're using dynamic HTML to create the animation on these pages instead of things like animated GIFs. Again, I can move my mouse over text and control that text using dynamic HTML to have it light up or display different things just by watching my mouse movements. You may have heard about the deal with Pointcast a number of months ago. We announced that Pointcast will be one of the major content providers inside IE 4.0. So if you're interested in looking at their content, you'll be able to do so from the channel architecture inside IE. So I can look at the business tab. And again, even there using dynamic HTML, as I move my mouse over text, notice how it italicizes it. And then I can use things like the 2D layering and exact positioning to expand or contract stories, so I can drill down on them a little bit. And they've done some other things with dynamic HTML as well. Again, you'll be able to subscribe or not to a number of different channels, and you'll see more of this in the next beta of IE4. Finally, corporate accounts will also be able to create their own channels for their intranet. So HR can have a channel, or administration can have a channel. And again, this is just a simple idea of what you might want to do on your channel, pushing information down to specific users' desktops. Now again, this is even using dynamic HTML, so I can click on any of these bars and I can get the information that I'm looking for. This is a very easy way for corporate accounts to deliver information directly down to their users. And in fact, they've even put an ActiveX control with a ticker on the page. They've got the ActiveX marquee control, and then again some dynamic HTML. So this is an initial idea of how Microsoft is bringing personal information delivery to users of IE4. Finally, Internet Explorer sets out to solve a problem that many users tell us cause a great deal of confusion. People use one tool to look at information on their hard drive or their LAN, and then they have to use a separate tool to look at information on the Internet or on their intranet. True web integration brings these two worlds together, so it's easy to get at information regardless of its location or its format. It even updates Windows 95 so that it's web savvy as the Start button, taskbar, and the desktop get ready for the Internet. The first idea I want to introduce you to is called the Single Explorer. We've taken all the terrific navigation features of a web browser, such as back, forwards, favorites, and single click, and we've moved them into the everyday PC computing experience. Notice how I can select my computer just by moving my mouse over it. And then, with a single click, I can see what's inside. So this now looks and feels just like a web page. I can single click onto my C drive and then use the back button to return to my computer. Again, I can click once to get to the control panel and then back again to get to my computer. So you can see that I browse my hard drive or my LAN the exact same way that I browse the web, using the same navigation features such as back, forward, and single click. What's so exciting about this Single Explorer, however, is that the web is always there for me. If I want to get to a web page from this window, I can just type a URL from the address bar, such as pcweek.com, and I'm immediately on the web. I don't have to launch a separate application. Now that I'm on the Internet, I can simply click the back button, and I'm immediately back looking at local content on my computer. I don't have to launch a separate web browser as that functionality is present all the time, so the browser is always enabled. You don't have to wait for a browser to load or have any additional code in memory simply to browse the web. Now the next exciting piece of Single Explorer is called Web View. Today we have traditional views like large icon, small icon, list, and details, but we've simply added another view that enables a full, rich, descriptive view of the content of the page that I'm viewing. This enables you to place internet functionality like HTML or Java inside any directory. For example, if I turn on Web View now, you'll see that I have additional information displayed for me. For example, as I have a Java applet over here that shows me how much free space I have left on my hard drive. So I can move my mouse over my C drive, and the Java applet changes to show me how much space I have left. We're using dynamic HTML to perform this capability. You can use Web View in any directory anywhere. So what I'm going to do is move to the control panel to show you another example of it. Now that we're inside the control panel, you'll see that we have, again, using frames, another area where we've used Web View to display some HTML inside this window. Here it says where the text reads displays description, I can just move my mouse over the different control panel applets, such as the printer's applet or the mouse applet, and it automatically gives me a description of what that control panel applet does. Again, this is completely customizable, so your corporation can customize this, you as an end user can customize it, your OEM, your ISP can take advantage of the power of HTML to really customize these new web views. And again, if you need to get to the web, it's just one click away. And again, now I'm out on the internet, on a Microsoft web page, but then very simply I can click on my back button and I'm back in my control panel. So it's completely seamless. Now, another exciting aspect of Web View is what we can do with file servers today. Today we have the concept of a separation between file servers and HTTP servers or web servers, and companies are taking a great amount of time migrating file server information to their appropriate web servers, and that doesn't happen overnight. But what we can do is make that migration a little smoother by enabling Web View on any file server. I'm going to map to a directory called the Travel Public server. When I click on that, we're basically going to see what we would normally see if I map to a file server today. Just a boring list of files and folders, and I really have to really pray that there's a readme.txt in this directory telling me where do I go for help, what's in all these folders, what do I do if something goes wrong. But with IE4, you can create your own web view. Now I'm going to turn this on. And remember that I'm looking at the exact same directory. I'm just using a web page to represent that directory. So I turn this on, and now, using the richness and the power of HTML, I've got a much nicer folder displaying the Arcadia Bay Travel folder. So you can see that we have, for example, the contents of the page on the right side of the screen, but on the other side of the page, you've got links to perhaps your expense report templates or even links out to the World Wide Web. I mean, this is certainly more powerful than anything you could do in a simple readme.txt directory. For example, since this is the travel page, I can go out and look at the web page that has to do with customs. Now I'm out on the internet, I click my back button, and I'm back on my file server for Arcadia Bay. So it's very easy to take advantage of these custom web views. Here's another great example. Let's say I'm a new user and I get a floppy disk in the mail from my hardware manufacturer. When I pop it into my hard drive, I open it up, and I usually see something like this. Now, as a new user, this is very disconcerting. I've got all kinds of compressed files here and all sorts of executables, and again, if I'm someone who's new to using their computer, I don't know what any of these do. I might just start clicking on all these things because that's what I've seen my friends do. However, that hardware manufacturer can create a custom web view. Again, this will be the default view if the person is looking at it using IE4. And instead of seeing this ugly mess, you can create a nice, simple web page from that hardware manufacturer, for example. Click here to set up the driver, making it very easy to for end users to use your software. You don't need any special servers to make this work. WebView works in any directory, on any computer, on any file server, any floppy disk, any CD, anywhere, as long as you're looking at that directory with IE4. It's easy to create these custom web views if you know HTML, but even if you don't, Internet Explorer provides a customize this folder wizard to help you create your new web pages step by step. It's even tightly integrated with FrontPad, the authoring tool built into IE4 to help you make your web pages. Now, the next part of true web integration is how we've integrated the rest of Windows 95 and gotten it ready for the web. Everyone who uses Windows 95 knows that there's one place to go to get everything they need on their computer, the Start button and the taskbar. Well, they've both been updated so that they're ready for the Internet. First of all, on the Start button, we've added a Favorites menu, so you can very easily get to any of your favorite web pages without having to launch your browser first. Just like you go to the Start button to go to your favorite programs, now you can do the same thing for your favorite websites. It's very easy to arrange your favorites, just like I showed you earlier in the demo. I can just drag and drop my favorites around through the menu structure, so I can put them anywhere I want. In fact, because we did that work, we decided to implement the #1 user feature request in Windows 95, the ability to customize your programs menu right on the menu. So I can, for example, take the DOS prompt and drag it around, or even insert it on the top of this menu if I chose to do so. So the ability to customize your Start menu as well. We've even added some new Find capabilities. You notice that the Find menu has been expanded so that you can see files or folders, computer on the Microsoft network, which we had before, but also you can now search on the Internet, or you can even search for people on the Internet. Using the LDAP functionality that I showed you earlier in the demo, you can now go out on the net and find different people's email addresses. Okay, so we've updated the Start button for the web. The next thing we've done is updated the taskbar. As you can see below, notice how it can hold your favorite applications, like the IE4 suite here, but it's completely open and customizable with an interface just like IE3 and actually Office 97. So the applications you use most often can just sit in your taskbar. Here we have Internet Explorer, the channel selector, Outlook Express for mail and news, and NetMeeting, just as some examples. Also, the taskbar can do more than just hold shortcuts for your applications. In fact, we've added some new functionalities so that you can add an address bar to your taskbar. So now I can type the address of any website, and it'll launch my browser and take me there, again, without ever having to launch the browser first. I can get to any web page that I want, and I can leave that address bar in my taskbar if I'd like. I'm going to turn it off now because I want to show you something else. The taskbar now is actually so updated for the web that it can even natively host HTML inside of it. What I have is a shortcut on my desktop to a page that is really just a simple web page. It has some HTML in it. I'm going to take it and drag and drop it all the way down to my taskbar. And now you'll see how it pops up, and it's a scrolling ticker. So that page has some news scrolling across the bottom of the screen. It certainly fits nicely inside my Windows 95 taskbar. I can actually take this, however, and drag and drop it all the way to the top of my screen, because I don't want those taskbars to get crowded. And now I can take this and expand it or shrink it down. In fact, you can do this with any web page you want, any page that you think needs to be on your docked on your desktop. But if it takes up some valuable desktop real estate, you can turn on the auto hide feature, which makes it go away. So you can work normally, but as soon as you need that information, just move your mouse to the top and your web page pops up automatically. So some nice ways that we've integrated the web with the Windows 95 taskbar. I'm going to close that down so that you can see the final step to truly integrate your PC with the Internet. Microsoft would like to introduce with IE4 the active desktop. We've shown you how the shell has been updated for the web, the Start button and taskbar have been updated for the Internet, and now we want to bring that type of functionality to your desktop. So think of the active desktop kind of like your bulletin board that you have in your office or your home that has pictures of your family or your kids or a calendar, news clippings or important work items, all the things that really need to be in your face all the time. We want to bring that functionality to the active desktop. So you'll be able to put anything on your desktop, from web pages to Java applets to ActiveX controls. Let's show some examples. I'm going to go to my web browser, and with the launch of the IE4 platform preview release, we're actually going to have a gallery on our website with all kinds of neat desktop components of Java clocks and ActiveX controls and stock tickers and sports tickers, all kinds of neat things that we think you might want to put on your desktop. Here's a simple example of a stock ticker from the Microsoft Investor site. What I can do is click the Put It on My Active Desktop button. It asks me if I want to do so. I'll say yes. And then when I minimize my browser so we can see the desktop, you'll see that we actually have that ticker live on my desktop. I can actually drag and drop it around and put it wherever I'd like, and the other control actually lets me resize the ticker if I wanted to do so. So this is extremely powerful that anything you're interested in on the web, you'll be able to get directly on your desktop. Let me show you another example. We have a pretty neat ActiveX control over on the CarPoint site, which gives me kind of a 360-degree view of all types of different cars. So that image is coming in now. So let's say for some reason I wanted this control on my desktop because I think it's cool and I want to make sure that I get that 911 Targa soon. I can click the Put It on My Active Desktop button just like before, say yes, and then when I minimize my browser, you'll see that we have that control on my desktop as well. You should see that it can hide behind the icons if you want it to, so it doesn't disrupt the work that you're already doing. But again, I can drag and drop this control and have it work live wherever I want, and it's completely wired to the internet. Now, there are plenty of ways to add different things to your desktop. I'll show you another example. I'm going to go to the properties of my desktop and click the Desktop tab. And let's get rid of these, and I'm just going to show you how you can add something perhaps by hand. There will be lots of different ways to add things to your desktop. I'm just going to browse my hard drive. Maybe I found a picture of something that I want on my desktop. As opposed to a static picture, which we really had to deal with before in Windows 95 and how wallpaper worked, now I can take all kinds of pictures from anywhere I want and again just put them however I'd like on my desktop. Here's a picture of my car, which I can then resize and drag and drop again around however I like. Now let's take a quick look at how a corporate account might take advantage of the Active Desktop. What I'm going to do is go to the Properties sheet again. Corporations can actually replace the desktop with a custom-made web page that they can use really to control their end user's environment, so their Windows 95 and NT desktops. So I'm going to choose this option which says display this local HTML document as my desktop background, and it points to a web page. So I can create all kinds of custom web pages for the different organizations in my company, and then I can have different desktops for them simply based on web pages. This is an example of the Arcadia Bay desktop. In fact, you'll see one desktop component over here which has personalized messages direct for me, or an ActiveX control with stocks and news coming down. Also below that, we have another desktop component which simply represents an important web page. So here's a link to the Arcadia Bay intranet, and I can type anything that I'm searching for inside there. Also, while this may look like a bitmap in the background, if you look at the bottom, this actually is a real web page, and we're using dynamic HTML to highlight some of the links, but it's just a web page, and users have the ability to get to those links very easily. Also, with management tools like the Internet Explorer Administration Kit, or in Windows 95, System Policies and User Profiles, you'll be able to truly lock down the desktop. I'm going to right-click on the desktop and turn off the icons command. So now the icons are gone. And again, I'll be able to lock this down so that users only have access to the links that I've given them on their custom web page. Well, thank you very much for your time. We hope you've seen a great deal of exciting new information about Internet Explorer 4.0 and how it brings the best of the web together with the best of the PC. And we invite you to download it for free from www.microsoft.com today.